Hey guys, it's Canadian Kyle here at the Wealth Orders podcast, and today I'm joined with Greg Johnson. He is the CEO and chairman of Metallic Minerals, ticker symbols MMG on the TSXV and MMNGF on the OTCQB. They're an exploration company focused on high-grade silver as well as copper, and they have a unique gold opportunity. So I'm really looking forward to having Greg share a story with my listeners out there. So Greg, thanks for coming on the program.
Well, thanks for having us. It's good to be here.
I always start off with new guests by asking the same question. What were you doing when you were my age? I'm 26. So what were you doing from 20 to 26 years old?
So that was the early part of my career. I started out with Placer Dome, which was one of the largest Canadian gold producers. They merged with Barrick Gold in the mid 2000s. And I'm an exploration geologist by background and training. So I started out the first part of my career up in Alaska, working with some fantastic mentor professional geologists and explorationists. Had the opportunity shortly thereafter for that first kind of 10 years of my career to really travel the geologic world, if you will. Got a chance to work in Africa and Russia, Australia, New Guinea, and really see a cross section of different exploration and mining settings in some of the biggest mines that Placer Dome had around the world. I think they had 26 operations, and I got a chance to get to a lot of the very biggest ones. And so that was really a great launching board for my career, because as an exploration geologist, the key thing is to be able to recognize something of significance. By that, I mean a mineral system of significance when you see it. And I think one of the things you really learn when you work for a major mining company like that is what are the targets a big company is looking for? And what are the hallmarks that they're looking for? And then, that's been a key part of my approach in the various companies I've been involved in is applying that knowledge and those learnings so that we target things that we think big companies are going to be interested in. And that if we're successful, it's going to create significant value for our shareholders.
Okay, thanks for that, Greg. And times are kind of changing now, I notice, and we're going to get into your deposits. But do you see the flavor for majors changing? Like, are they focused more on Canada and North America than, like you say, you travel to Africa, Papua New Guinea, and all these places? Do you think they're having a higher weighting on these North American projects?
I think that the biggest companies have to be opportunistic. They have to be looking the world over, but there's no question that a lower risk jurisdiction like North America, like Canada, and now even the US and some of these older districts that are coming back to life is valued. I don't know that at the junior company level, the market always does a great job of assessing that relative risk, but political risk is real, and it should be part of the value equation. It should be something that investors consider. But the major mining companies, because they're looking for the very biggest deposits, they have to go where the geology is. And sometimes that means they're looking in some very gamey territories to find what they're looking for. And I think the opportunity being, if you can be a North American focused company like our group of companies are, and find something of scale that a major is interested in, then you've really got something that's going to stand out.
Okay, for sure. Thank you for that. And I've had a lot of guests on the program. Some of them are brand new CEOs. Some of them are like yourself that has started with the majors, worked with the majors, been part of major discoveries. And you've also had experience as a CEO of an exploration company before, right? So just talk about the significance of that as opposed to someone that's green to the CEO role.
Yeah, I think it's important for investors when they're looking at companies, let's say in the exploration development phase that we are. You want to know that those people that are running those companies have experience in the discovery and advancement of a project. You want to know that they've done it before and that they know how to raise the capital. This is a capital intensive business. So can they convey their knowledge and their experience and their track record to investors to raise the significant capital that's required to really make something that's going to create value? And I think that's really important. And there's kind of three legs to the stool, if you will, for what I think the market tends to value. You've got to have a team with that experience. So you're looking for explorationists, geologists, people with an exploration background, and ideally with a track record where they've made some discoveries and have some experience under their belt. You're looking for that deposit that's got scale to become something a major cares about. Because, honestly, if it's a small thing, even if it's high grade or this or that, it's really not going to matter at the end of the day if it's not big enough to really move the bar. And then lastly, the team has to be able to take these sometimes quite complex concepts and be able to distill that down in a way that investors can get their head around and understand what's the investment thesis. What are you guys really looking for? What does success look like? And I think if you can put all three of those pieces together and you can look at that track record and you can look at, they've done this before and they've been able to raise money even during the tough times, and they've got something that's in the right kind of political jurisdiction, you've got the ingredients for something that could be a real success if they have some of that geological luck at the drill bit.
Okay, thanks for that, Greg. And when looking into your company, I found you guys have a unique selling feature. You're metallic minerals, but you're also part of the metallic group of companies. I haven't really seen people in the exploration space saying we're part of these three companies. So why should we care about these three companies? Who are they? What's the significance? Do you have a track record? Just educate us on the three.
Yeah, you bet. So the idea with having a group of companies, multifold. First of all, it means that we can share certain resources at the corporate level to keep our costs down. Part of running a public company is filings and all these things you have to do quarterly and just running the company. And so we can share back office, we can share our CFO, we can share the administrative support functions. It also means we can have some specialists that you might not be able to afford to employ if you were a one company, that was doing it on its own. So we can bring together visualization specialists, geophysicists, and others that are shared across the group very cost effectively. So in a way, putting these three companies together, they're each separate public companies. So they have their own management team, their own board of directors, and each is focused in their own particular area of their own metals. So we have a silver and gold focused company, Metallic Minerals. We have GroupTen Metals, which is platinum group elements and battery metals, and then Granite Copper, which is copper and gold. And so each company has a really well-defined model they're going after. We've got this strong exploration team that can collaborate. It means we've really got a super deep bench with lots of expertise that we can draw on. And hopefully that allows us to be able to do more for the money that we raise and to be able to have more success by drawing on that collective experience. In the case of the Metallic Group, which makes up the three companies, I'm one of the original co-founders after Placer Dome. I went on to co-found Nova Gold Resources, which is today a multi-billion-dollar market cap advanced stage developer in partnership with Barrick Gold. And the team here, a lot of them came from that background with Nova Gold. So, a number of world-class discoveries in North America and other parts of the world, having taken deposits from early stage all the way to feasibility and created value along the way. So our model here has been to say, okay, in the last metal price cycle, so from 2001 bear market to 2011, top of the last cycle, we built Nova Gold from a $10 million market cap, so micro cap exploration stage company, to over $2 billion. And we did that through finding a resource, growing that resource, and de-risking it through the engineering stages. And so that's the same model we're looking to employ with a metallic group of companies, each one in their own projects that they have, but basically to apply that same approach. So we started putting this together in 2016. So at the bottom of this bear market cycle, very similar to Nova Gold's early days, and have effectively identified 4 separate assets across the 3 companies that we believe have the potential to be a tier 1 asset, which is the very top assets in the mining industry for their metal. And so that's really been effectively the strategy that we've been employing with the metallic.
Okay, thank you. And I only have an hour of your time, and I asked you to come on for Metallic Minerals, but I do want you to just plug shamelessly in GroupTen Metals, because I have a few people I respect in the market saying that they like platinum right now and the price it's at right now. So is there any good catalyst? Like, why should I spend my time looking at GroupTen for platinum, palladium, as opposed to any other platinum company out there?
Yeah, you bet. So GroupTen Metals was the second company to come in and join with Metallic Minerals to start to form our group of companies. It's focused in the Stillwater district, which is the highest grade platinum palladium producer in the world. In Montana, this is a world-class scale operation already. This is right next door to GroupTen Metals, 14 million ounces of historic production and a mind-boggling 100 million ounces of resources in those two metals. So this is a true giant. It's as big and on par with South Africa, the Bushveld complex. And what we did at GroupTen, very similar to what we'll talk about with Metallic for silver, we went into this district, we acquired a district scale land package next to a one mine company, which was Stillwater Mining Company, who then was acquired shortly after we picked up our ground by Sibanye, which is a world-class producer.
Yeah.
But the idea was pick up this highly prospective ground next door to this world-class resource and apply a new exploration model. In this case, what we call the flat reef model from South Africa. So this is bulk tonnage, big scale, think hundreds of millions of ounces potentially, in it's basically a nickel, copper, cobalt that comes along, ore body that comes along with the platinum, palladium, gold, and rhodium. And so this is a really unique, there aren't very many deposits like this. There aren't very many geologic settings like this. And GroupTen is at the very early days. We just published our first resource, over 1 billion pounds of combined nickel and copper and 2.5 million ounces of platinum, palladium, gold, and rhodium. So already off to a huge start. Anything over 1 million ounces, you're on to something that's really stands out there in the industry. And for kind of near-term catalysts, why should people care? We're drill results. We've just wrapped up the program there. There's drill results coming out and an updated resource early in 2022 on that. So people that are looking for exposure to battery metals and also like the platinum group elements, particularly platinum, I'm also a real fan of. That's been undervalued historically, and I think there's a lot of room to run. This is one of the unique situations that you can exposure to platinum, palladium, nickel, copper, and in a first world jurisdiction. So you're not taking on a high political risk and proven production right next door. So de-risking it even one level further. So that's GroupTen Metals.
Okay, and Granite Creek copper, because I know a lot of people agree with the copper supply demand imbalances, and a lot of people see that copper is going to be doing well. It's been doing great, but a lot of people still see it's going to progress well. Is it too late for Granite Creek copper? Should we be looking at this company as opposed to another copper exploration play?
It's interesting. There aren't a lot of copper exploration plays to look at, but Granite Creek is the newest member of our group of companies, $25 million market cap, very early days, already has 500 million pound high grade copper resource in Canada, in the Yukon, right next to a highway. And just to the north is the high grade Minto operated mine. So just like Stillwater mine is next door to GroupTen, the Minto mine is next door to Carmax, which is the deposit that Granite Creek has. So early days, the market has not yet appreciated the value. This was snapped together by us recognizing the potential to put together the southern part of this district. We then acquired the next door company that had this Carmax deposit that was more or less on hold because of the bear market. Put those together. We've now got the very beginnings of something that already has a resource, already has an initial first stage engineering study, a PEA we call it. And we'll be seeing updates on that from the drilling that was done this year, a resource in Q1 and an updated PEA in Q2. So Granite Creek is already moving down that, expand the resource and then start to de-risk it and increase the value in the ground as you move towards feasibility stage, which is that NovaGold model. And we see the potential here for a multi-billion pound copper system, which is what the majors in copper are all looking for. And again, you're not taking on a bunch of political risk that you're doing that, near a highway in Canada next door to an operating mine. So it really checks all the boxes.
Okay, well, maybe you can introduce me to Granite Creek and GroupTen, and we can go in detail with them more another time. But let's get into metallic minerals a little more. You have experience, you say, but do you have experience with the deposits that is currently under control with metallic minerals?
Yeah, so myself, like many other exploration geologists, worked, throughout our career on variety. So I've worked on gold, I've worked on silver, I've worked on copper and platinum and nickel. Our team specifically has, on our mix of deposits, we have both high grade vein systems, as well as we also have experience in bulk tonnage porphyry related systems. And the systems here at Metallic are both in that ilk. And what we know geologically today is that high grade vein districts are almost always associated with a driving system that's a porphyry somewhere. Sometimes it could be many kilometers away, but they're almost always a relationship. So these vein districts are often an expression of that bigger porphyry system somewhere. You don't always see it right next door, but we know from systems like in South America that are really well exposed that there's this intimate relationship. So our team was involved in the Galore Creek discovery for Nova Gold. We grew that to a world-class system, one of the biggest copper, gold, silver systems in Canada and in the world, and that's now 50-50 owned by Newmont and Teck. And so that understanding, along with some of our technical people, ran some of the big deposits like the Campbell Red Lake mine for Placer Dome Barrick, really gives us a unique skill set for applying towards Metallic's two main assets, Keno Silver, which is a high-grade vein district, and the La Plata district, which is also historically a high-grade vein district, but it has an exposed porphyry system in the center of it. So that's kind of the key focus for the company.
Yeah, go ahead and elaborate on the Keno Silver District in that project. And I think maybe educate people of the area, Lexico, your neighbors, because there have been, like you said, high-grade silver mines in the past there, right?
That's absolutely. So the Keno Hill Silver District, located in the central Yukon, so right on the highway. It's just west of the Klondike Gold District that a lot of people know of from the Yukon. There's actually been more value in silver produced from the Keno Hill District than all the gold in the Klondike. So it really stands out world class wise for production, but it's also one of the highest grade, historic grades, over 1,200 grams per ton silver. So very, very high grade. It's a primary silver district, meaning more than half the value is silver. It's not a zinc deposit that has a little bit of silver that comes with it. I mean, this is primary silver. And there were some 40 different mines historically, half a dozen that were very large, with the largest mine being over 100 million ounces of high-grade silver. And more recently, Alexco came back into the district, and through their exploration, they've built up 100 million ounces of one of the world's highest grade modern resources. And they've just gone back into production in the last few months. And so that going back into production means they're now producing high-grade silver from these historic high-grade Keno style veins, still growing ounces, having success with exploration. And what Metallic Minerals is doing is we acquired the eastern, less explored part of the district. So we're extending the knowledge from the west, where the historic mining has been, into the less explored, same geologic setting side in the east. And as we've done on some of the other companies that I've mentioned earlier, we're applying new exploration models and technology to basically build on what's known and try to apply it in terms of the potential for a world-class scale discovery in the Keno district.
Okay, and I looked at the drill results and I thought, hey, like they're obviously high grade, but the width is narrow. And I was wondering, does that give you problems with the economics? And you really have to understand the geology and the geometry if it's such narrow veins, right?
Yeah, so silver's an interesting metal. When we look at most of the production comes as a byproduct from other metals, either gold, copper, or like lead and zinc. But when you look at primary silver mines, so that's a mine that has more than half its value from silver, it almost all comes from high grade selective vein mining. Because that's the setting that you need. So when you're looking at these structurally controlled vein systems, the key is really to understand, do you have the grade and continuity? In other words, do these things hold together in a big enough package to be mineable? And so selective vein mining can be down to a meter and a half width, is kind of the narrowest you can do. If your structures are narrower than that, then you have to mine material to that width. So it's going to basically dilute the metal
Right.
concentrate. So the key when looking at these is, do I see a system that has enough scale to be significant? Is going to make a big deposit for silver? And do those structures have significant continuity? Do they continue so that you know that once you get started on them, you're going to be able to build something larger? So in this district, you've got dozens of mines that have produced, and it's a 35-kilometer long district. So the continuity in this district is amazing, really, how large it is. It's as big as Greater Toronto. So from one side of the district to the other. And we see the same style of vein setting, and we see the same style of geologic host. It's just most of the focus historically was on the west, and that was partly due to land ownership and access. And so today, from a modern exploration point of view, we've got tools like satellite technology and soil sampling and geophysics that allows us to look at these more forested areas that we're working on in the east, so they were less exposed, but to be able to effectively explore those. And those are the kind of techniques we're applying in the Keno district.
Yeah, and go ahead and elaborate on that more, please. You did have an exploration program in 2021. So what was your emphasis on this drill program? What were you trying to achieve? Were you happy with the results so far? It is the end of the year now.
Yep, we just announced that we wrapped up. It was our biggest drill program to date. And we had kind of a multi-pronged focus to the program. We've got 3 areas on our property that are advanced stage. We're hitting the structures, we're drilling ore grades of reminable widths, we're growing those into initial resources. So part of the drill focus was keep stepping out, building it, understanding if there's vectors to go towards better grade and wider widths. But basically we're finding in those areas the classic high grade silver rich veins, very similar to our neighbor Alexa. The other part of the focus was we recognize these very large scale soil and geophysical anomalies in the east. These are areas that are more forested, so it's harder to kind of see the rocks in these areas. Yeah. But our initial drill round in 2020, basically reconnaissance holes into those soil anomalies, those geophysical anomalies, came back with 26 out of 30 holes hitting. And not only did they hit these kind of selective high-grade veins that the Keno district is known for, but they hit up to 70, 100-meter wide zones of continuous silver minerals. So bulk tonnage, still primary silver. So this is something we don't see a lot in silver. There are a few examples. The Penasquito mine that's operated by Newmont in Mexico is a 1 billion-ounce silver deposit that's open pit bulk tonnage. And so this really got the team thinking about, wow, maybe we've got a system that could be related to a porphyry system or an intrusive that's driven a much larger system. Maybe it's even the source for all the deposits at Keno. So this year's program was to not only do those advancing towards resources on the advanced stage, but to continue to drill next to those hits we made last year, offsetting those discovery holes, going laterally, deeper, to try to put together a geometry. What's the orientation of this? How thick is it? What's the grade going to be? And we're still waiting for final assay results, but the geophysics, the soils is working to target these. And what we can see in the core and in the reverse circulation is we're hitting sulfides, we're hitting structure. So we're pretty excited that we're on to something of real significance here at East Keno.
Okay, and I'm not a geologist, so this bulk tonnage, would it be deeper or would it be just more farther away? Like you say, you have a 35-kilometer land package. Is it just farther away or is it down deeper in the ground?
Yeah, so this particular half of the district, so this kind of eastern half of this 35-kilometer district is basically, we're targeting things right at surface. But the potential here is that, when you look on the west, you see the head frames where they were going underground 300, 400, 500 meters depth and mining, and now Alexco's drilling, even a kilometer from surface and hitting. And so they would be mining selectively underground. What we're seeing on the east is, yes, we've got those high-grade structures, but because we're seeing zones that are 100 meters or greater in width, you might be able to open pit mine those. And so that means your cost is lower. Your grade is also going to be lower, but your costs are 1/10 the cost of underground mining. Yeah. So you can have the same economics at 1/10 the grade. And if you put enough of it together, you can really create significant value. So we're pretty excited about this potential for not only more of what we see on the west, but to see these bulk tonnage systems that could really add up to much larger size.
Okay, thanks for that. And you're excited, obviously, of the Keno district, but you do have the La Plata project. Where is that located? Have you developed much on that this year? Why don't you go ahead and educate the listeners on La Plata and that project?
Yeah, so La Plata is really an interesting opportunity. This is one of those situations where, we were in the right place at the right time when this opportunity came along. So the history, La Plata means silver in Spanish. It was discovered in the 1700s by the conquistadors. They found high-grade silver in the La Plata River drainage. In the 1800s through 1940s, they had 90 different mines and prospects, very similar to Keno Hill, mining the high-grade veins and structures right at surface. After World War II, those small miners didn't come back. And then we had Rio Tinto and Freeport, two of the biggest miners in the world, come into the district in the 1950s, 60s, and early 70s. And they recognized, oh, not only do we have these high-grade veins, but we've got this bulk tonnage porphyry system that sits right in the center. And this type of porphyry system, which is an intrusive related system, comes with copper, silver, gold, that's disseminated throughout the rocks, hundreds of meters, and mineralization is measured right already over a kilometer in depth and almost a kilometer in width, and it's open in all directions. And surrounding that porphyry is this high-grade vein structurally controlled district, so like Keno Hill. So it's a combined targeting, maybe similar to what might be driving Keno East. And so it's a great fit for our team. We're the first to be applying modern geologic and geophysical tools. We're applying machine learning, artificial intelligence to this system, and we're developing some super exciting targets. This year's work has really been building the data layers on the project, which is what we did at Keno so successfully, and starting to bring that information in. We drilled 2 confirmatory holes with some underground sampling, which basically confirming the historic work that was done by the major mining companies, which was all, as you can imagine, super high quality. And this could allow us to fast track to a first resource at La Plata, which would be a very significant milestone for metallic minerals.
Okay, and let's just simplify it for the non-geologists out there then. Would you focus on copper and open pit mine in the copper and then be selective with the silver high grade veins and mine the silver that way? Like, what would the strategy be?
Yeah, so as in the case at Keno Hill, where you have silver that comes along with lead and zinc, when you mine the silver, you're getting the lead and zinc value too. At La Plata, in the bulk tonnage system, so this is the disseminated very large targets, it's copper, silver, gold, and sometimes some other metals with that. In the veins themselves, it's mostly silver, gold, and maybe you've got some copper and other metals. So we're taking a very holistic approach where we can see an operation that's both bulk tonnage, so you're mining, bulk tonnage underground, for instance, and you're also doing selective mining so that you can get the best of both worlds. You're selectively taking super high grade material and you're taking stuff that has real scale. And that's the kind of system that the major miners, particularly those focused in copper, love to see. They love to see something that's got a whole bunch of copper and also comes along with those sweeteners, the precious metals. And that's the vision we see at La Plata, something that is going to be big enough for a major to be interested in the copper world, but comes along with really nice precious metal credits along with it.
Sure. Thank you for that. And you have one more project I want to get into. We've been going in depth, so I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's the Klondike district, right? And anyone that's been listening to my program for a while knows that 80% of my portfolio is in royalty companies. I do have 20% for these exploration plays. But you have an option here, 10 to 15% royalty on the Klondike. Can you talk about that project and that royalty?
Yeah, you bet. So we had an opportunity a couple of years ago to pick up one of the largest packages of ground that's unmined in the Klondike. So the Klondike is this famous gold, 1898 gold rush area. So it's produced over 20 million ounces of gold from the gravel. So this is gold that was originally in rock, eroded and concentrated down into the gravels, and has been mining, since for over 100 years in this very low cost. You're basically just using gravity and water to separate the gold from the gravel and mine that. And so, there's tremendous history, and this area is basically the eastern extension of the Klondike. They're calling the discovery on the 2 areas we're working on one of the biggest discoveries in the Klondike in the last 20 years because of the scale of it. And effectively, what we're set up to do, we're the landowners, is we're We're leasing out ground to experienced operators. We have them come in and do the exploration, put in the roads, take a bulk sample, and then they're already permitted for them to go into production. So they then can start producing, and we take, depending on where it's located, how much infrastructure, and what the kind of stage is, we take between a 10 and a 15% royalty on that. So we already have 4 leases in place with operators that have been drilling and doing bulk sampling. We think we're on the verge of seeing commercial production start up in 2022 on these. And we've got room for another 10 or 15 operators upstream. We're working on the permitting for those upstream blocks. But with the success they're having on the lower parts, it's going to be really easy for us to attract high quality operators on the upper part. So no risk to us. We're not putting any capital out. They're putting that capital, but we'll take the direct production in that royalty and see if we can scale this up. So initial days, we're probably looking at something that can help offset our cost to run the company. Very similar to the early days at Nova Gold, where we had a sand and gravel business in Nome, Alaska that helped keep the lights on during the bear market. And then over time, we see this as building up as a nice royalty portfolio that either we keep intact or potentially monetize it or even spin it out. We'll have to wait and see how it develops. But we're on the verge of seeing the first significant production probably in 2022 from the 4 leases that we already have in place, and the ability to scale that up from there.
Oh, very cool. That's interesting. I don't even know if I've heard of anything like that before. So if we're leasing it, is that the best bang for your buck for the metallic mineral shareholders? It's interesting that you lease and do the royalty and not just sell them the rights to it.
Well, the reason we do it as a lease, it's just contractually, it makes, we can put work requirements on it. We can have them having to do a certain amount of work, and they have to perform to certain standards. We want to make sure it's a high environmental standard and they're following all the proper, rules and regulations. So it gives us more control as the company than just a passive royalty holder. So that's one reason we've taken that tack. It also means that we're deeply involved in helping these guys move along, because our skills are acquiring ground, exploring it, getting permits. So these are all things that we can do that add value for those producers. And the real opportunity, big difference between alluvial mining and hard rock, is the timeline to go from exploration to permit can be 6 months as opposed to sometimes 2 or 3 years, even in a good jurisdiction like the Yukon. So it can allow you to fast track from initial drill holes to testing to actual production. And so that's what makes this particularly enticing. And the opportunity we're seeing is that this is as big as some of the big open pit operations just downstream. And some of those, operations, well, they've produced about 40% of the gold every year in the Yukon. So these are big open pit operations. Don't use chemicals. They're just using gravity and water to recover the gold from a low cost open pit type operation.
Very nice. That's interesting. I like that. I like asking my guests market cap, share structure, cash in the bank.
Yeah, so we're sitting in right around $65 million market cap here recently. Of course, the whole silver and gold space has gone through a significant consolidation over the last 14 months. I see that just as it happens along the way in a good bull market. You're going to see corrections. The good thing is it presents opportunities for investors that are looking for high quality names, at these levels. So, we've been higher in the recent past, but that's where we're at right now. Market cap about 5 million in the bank. Big program this year. It was our biggest programs across the company. So we're well funded into 2022. We're positioned to be able to build on the programs, from last year and from this year and last year, and we're debt free. So we're in a really good, solid position to continue to add value with a number of catalysts ahead.
Perfect. That's a nice segment for the last question before we get into the vault. What are the catalysts, or what are the factors that you think are the most noteworthy for 2022 and going forward?
So with us wrapping up programs already at Keno, La Plata is going to wrap up very soon. They're just finishing up in the alluvial district in the Klondike. So we're going to be able to see a series of news releases from Keno that are drill releases, the new deep geophysics that we did that was quite exciting. Over the next several months, those numbers will start coming out. In parallel, results coming from the confirmatory drilling at La Plata, and then the initial drilling and bulk sample testing on the alluvial. So nice flow of news well into early 2022 as we start to, basically implement and start up our next programs on those 3 projects for next year, and we would expect those to be, as large or larger than they were this year.
And how long are drill programs up there in the Yukon anyway?
Well, our neighbor Alexco, they drill year round. So if you're set up, depending on where you are in our particular area, there's no reason you can't work year round. The optimal exploration season for most exploration companies in the Yukon, just because it's easier, is kind of May till October. It would be kind of a sweet spot for field activities. But if you've got your camp and you're winterized, there's no reason you can't drill some of these areas. And as you know, in Eastern Canada, sometimes areas are swampy and they have to wait till it freezes up to even be able to do their exploration. But we're working in areas here that can be operated nearly year round.
All right. Thanks for that, Greg. Appreciate your time. I'm going to respect your time. I do have a recurrent segment though called The Vault. This is my favorite part. It's we talked a lot about your company, a lot about your projects, but in The Vault, it's more mentorship-like questions, something that my guests can take or listeners can take away from each interview. So like I say, it's my favorite part. Let's get into The Vault.
Okay.
First question, what did your parents teach you at a young age that has stuck with you to today?
That's a good question. I think, find your interests and put your heart into it, right? Try your best. And I think, that just goes so far, especially if you can really find those things that are just naturally engaging for you.
Okay, thank you for that. And we are the Wealth Holders podcast. So can you name a high net worth individual or wealth holder? And if you don't want to disclose his or her name, that's perfectly fine. But what did he or she teach you either in business or in life?
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate to be able to work with a number of folks. I mean, one individual that is an investor in NovaGold is Eric Sprott, a renowned resource investor. Eric was one of the early investors at NovaGold as well. I've always been impressed with Eric's approach at willing to take risk. It's a calculated risk, but and it's kind of a basket approach. But when he believes in something, he really goes out there, and as you probably know, he's very pound the table bullish on silver and gold. And I really respect how he's someone who really goes after what he believes in, and I think that's it's something that I aspire to as well.
Yeah, I find him interesting too because he has a basket approach, but he's specific on certain jurisdictions. Like he's not all over the country or the world. He might have many companies within a district. Like a lot of people like calling it New Sprotland now. Like he just as an example, right?
Yeah, and silver. I mean, there aren't a lot of names to invest in silver. It's a much smaller slice, and he has a lot of those names. But what's neat too is he's pretty vocal. He's quite visible. So he's out there talking about why did I invest in that? What was it I saw? And I think that's great because it helps kind of educate people about, well, what does a guy who's been so successful like that like to see?
Yeah.
So I think that's really neat.
Yeah, exactly. Last question. I'm just a 26-year-old starting his journey in life. Any advice for the young listeners out there?
Find your passion. What is it what makes you excited? What's the thing that, you could focus your work on, your life on, that you would do whether someone paid you or not? I was fortunate that I got started early in geology. Didn't even really know it was something. I just loved the outdoors and I loved nature, and I was a natural kind of rock hound as a kid. And there's times through my career where I just look back and think, wow, it's just amazing some of the places I've been able to go, some of the things I've been able to see, and people I've been able to work with. And a big part of what I try to do is bring my natural enthusiasm, for the industry and for the business and the process of exploration to the table. And it's certainly something that I think if people can find that, and if they can really hone their ability to learn how to learn, right? Especially in the modern world, if you can figure out how do I go find the knowledge I need on this and apply it to something you're really excited about, I think that's a terrific roadmap.
That's a good answer. And are you happy now wearing the old suit now instead of chipping rocks?
Hey, I still get to get out in the field. I still get involved. I mean, I'm involved more in the fundraising part of things too. But it's what's great about this industry And actually, there's huge opportunity in the exploration industry for young people who are interested. Is that you get to work out on the site. You get to get out into these areas that are, such amazing geographies. And, you get to get involved in running companies and raising capital. And so it's really a diverse set of skills. And it's an exciting business. And I'd strongly encourage anyone who has an interest in, geography and geographic information systems and exploration or mining or engineering to really consider it, because a lot of the people in our industry are approaching retirement age in the next 10, 15 years. And there's going to be a huge opportunity for young people, such as yourselves to look at this if it's an area that you're interested in. And the industry is going to need those skills. And this is an industry, we can't make metal from computer programs or other ways, right? We have to be able to find and just explore and develop these deposits to bring these metals that run our high-tech devices and our homes and transportation and everything. And that's not going to change, right? That need to find things and develop them and bring them to market is a huge opportunity, I think, particularly where we are in this transition towards carbon-free energy and these other things. These are going to be more metal-intensive ways of doing business. They're going to be better for the environment. But it's going to mean we're going to need geologists and other professionals, for the industry.
Oh, 100%. My brother, he's second year geology, and I'm in Thunder Bay, Ontario. It's kind of a mining hub on the Canadian Shield. And I think there's 6 geology majors in the program. So, you make a killing. They pay for your live out. You go and work, cool places, like you say. And no, it's awesome.
It's great. And the people, I just find you meet so many interesting people, and it's an opportunity to really, expand your awareness of opportunities in directions you're interested in, and to really, work in some really interesting places and with interesting people.
No, for sure. Listen, Greg, I'm going to respect your time. Thank you for coming on. I do like letting my guests close off, though. So here's your chance to say whatever you'd like to the listeners out there, but just please close us off.
No, I really appreciate the time. It's been a great chat. I would invite people who are interested in any of the metals that we're focused on: silver, platinum, nickel, copper, cobalt, the battery metals, and then copper and gold, to reach out to us. We always like to hear from investors. We're always happy to talk to you about what we're working on, the more details than what we've gone into today. And go to our websites. We've got the metallicgroup.ca, we've got Metallic Minerals, GroupTen Metals, and Granite Creek Copper. So, invite you to reach out. We'd love to hear from you.
Perfect. Thanks, Greg.